At first it lifted up dust and sprayed dirt. Afterwards it toppled trees and felled forests. Those stars glistened through lifted dust and sprayed dirt. The moon paled as trees toppled and forests fell. It blew till China tightly hugged the swoluo tree. The jade hair spinning searched for its dish of herbs. 9-star officials all shut their doors. Dragon kings of 4 seas all closed their gates. City gods looked for young demons in their shrines. But mid-air divines could not soar on clouds. Yama of Hades sought to find horse faces. As judges dashed madly to run down their raps. It rocked the boulders on Kunlun summit. And churned up the waves in rivers and lakes. When the wind subsided, he immediately felt the fragrance of orchids and perfumes, and he heard the tinkling of girdle jade. He rose slightly and raised his head to look. Ah, it was a beautiful young girl, walking straight up the hall. Uli, ula, chanted Pilgrim, pretending to recite scriptures. The girl walked up to him and hugged him, saying, "Little elder, what sort of scriptures are you chanting?" "What I vowed to chant," replied Pilgrim. "Everyone's enjoying his sleep," said the girl. "Why are you still chanting?" "I made a vow," replied Pilgrim. "How could I not do so?" Hugging him once more, the girl kissed him and said, "Let's go out back and play." Turning his face aside deliberately, Pilgrim said, "You are kind of dumb. Do you know physiognomy?" asked the girl. "A little," replied Pilgrim. "Read my face," said the girl, "and see what sort of a person I am." "I can see," said Pilgrim, "that you are somewhat of a slut or debauchee driven out by your in-laws." "You haven't seen a thing," exclaimed the girl. "You haven't seen a thing. I am no slut or debauchee, whom my in-laws compelled to flee. By my former life's poor fate, I was given too young a mate, who knew nothing of marriage rite, and drove me to leave him this night. But the stars and the moon, so luminous this evening, have created the affinity for you and me to meet. Let's go into the rear garden and make love." On hearing this, Pilgrim nodded and said to himself, "So those several stupid monks all succumbed to lust, and that was how they lost their lives. Now she's trying to fool even me." He said to her, "Lady, this priest is still very young, and he doesn't know much about lovemaking. Follow me," said the girl, "and I'll teach you." Pilgrim smiled and said to himself, "All right. I'll follow her and see what she wants to do with me." They put their arms around each other's shoulders and, hand in hand, the two of them left the hall to walk to the rear garden. Immediately tripping Pilgrim up with her leg so that he fell to the ground, the fiend began crying, "Sweetheart," madly as she tried to pinch his stinky root. "My dear child," exclaimed Pilgrim, "you do want to devour old monkey." He caught her hand and, using a little tumbling technique, flipped the fiend onto the ground. Even then, the fiend cried out, "Sweetheart, you certainly know how to make your old lady fall." Pilgrim thought to himself, "If I don't move against her now, what am I waiting for? As the saying goes, strike first and you're the stronger. Delay and you won't live longer." Hands on his hips, he snapped his torso erect and leapt up to change into the magic appearance of his true form. Wielding his golden hooped iron rod, he struck at the girl's head. The fiend, too, was somewhat startled, thinking to herself, "This young priest is quite formidable." She opened her eyes wide to take a careful look, and found that her opponent was in fact the disciple of Elder Tang, the one with the surname of Sun. She was, however, not the least intimidated. What kind of spirit was she, you ask? She has a nose of gold, and fur like snow. She dwells in tunnels underground, where every part's both safe and sound. A breath she nourished 300 years before had sent her a few times to Mount Spirit's shore. Of candles and flowers once she ate her fill. She was banished by Tathagata's will. to be pagoda bearer's cherished child. Prince Na-A took her as his sister, mild. She's no mythic, sea-filling bird of the air, nor a turtle that a sacred mountain bears. Of Lei Huan's magic sword she has no fear. To her, Lu Qian's cutlass cannot go near. Scurrying here and there, she defies the river Han or Yangtze's breadth and length. Scampering up and down the heights of Mount Tai or Hang is her special strength. When you behold her looks seductive and sweet, who'd think that she's a rodent spirit in heat? Proud of her own vast magic powers, she casually picked up a pair of swords and began to parry left and right, to slash east and west, causing loud janglings and clangings. Though Pilgrim was somewhat stronger, he could not quite overtake her. A cold gust rose everywhere, and the waning moon had now lost its light. Look at the two of them engaged in this marvelous battle in the rear garden. A cold wind rose from the ground. The waning moon released faint light. Quiet was the Buddhist palace, and forlorn the spirit porch. But the rear garden was some battlefield. Great Master Sun, a sage from heaven, and the furry girl, a queen of women. They took up a contest in magic powers. One hardened a woman's heart to scold this black bonzi. One widened his eyes of wisdom to glower at a girl. When the swords in both hands flew, who'd recognize a Lady Bodhisattva? When the single rod attacked, he was more vicious than a live Vara guardian. The golden hoop crackled like thunderbolts. The white steel flashed forth like luminous stars. Kingfishers dropped from jade towers. Mandarin ducks broke on the golden hall. Apes wailed as the Sichuan moon dimmed. Wild geese called from the vast southern sky. The 18 arhats all shouted bravos in secret. The 32 devas all became terror-stricken. As the great sage Sun became more and more energetic, the blows of his rod hardly ever slackening, the monster spirit suspected that she would not be able to withstand him much longer. All at once her knitted brows gave her a plan, and she turned to flee. "Lawless wench!" shouted Pilgrim. "Where are you going? Surrender instantly." But the monster spirit refused to answer and kept retreating. She waited until Pilgrim was about to catch up with her, and then ripped off her flower slipper from her left foot. Reciting a spell and blowing a mouthful of magic breath on it, she cried, "Change!" And it changed into her appearance, both hands wielding the swords to attack. Her true self in a flash turned into a clear gust and disappeared. Alas! Is she not once more the star of calamity for Tripitaka? She swept into the abbot's chamber and immediately abducted Tripitaka Tang. Silently and invisibly they rose straight to the clouds, and in a twinkling of an eye they reached Mount Void entrapping. After they entered the bottomless cave, she asked her little ones to prepare a vegetarian wedding feast, and there we shall leave them for the moment. We tell you now about Pilgrim, who fought on anxiously till he found an opening and struck down the monster spirit with one blow of the rod. Only then did he discover that it was merely a flower slipper. Realizing that he had been duped, Pilgrim rushed back to see his master, but he was nowhere to be found. Only Idiot and Sha Monk were there, chattering noisily about something. Maddened, Pilgrim lost all regard for good or ill as he raised high his rod and screamed, "I'm going to slaughter both of you! I'm going to slaughter both of you!" Our Idiot was so terrified that he did not know where to flee. Sha Monk, however, was a general from Mount Spirit after all. When he saw that things had become complicated, he turned gentle and mild as he walked forward and went to his knees. "Elder brother," he said, "I think I know what the matter is. You want to strike both of us dead so that you can go home and not go rescue Master. I'll slaughter both of you," replied Pilgrim. "And then I'll go rescue him by myself." "Elder brother, how can you speak like that?" said Sha Monk with a smile. "Without the two of us, you'll be reduced to the condition of the proverb, 'One silk fiber is no thread.' A single hand cannot clap. Oh, elder brother. Who's going to look after the luggage and the horse for you? Better that we emulate Guan and Bao dividing their gold, than to imitate Sun and Pang and their matching of wits. As the ancients said, to fight the tiger you need brothers of the same blood. To go to war requires a troop of fathers and sons. I beg you to spare us from this beating. By morning we'll unite with you in mind and effort to go search for Master. Though Pilgrim had vast magic powers, he was also a most sensible person. When he saw Sha Monk pleading like that, he at once relented, saying, 8 rules, Sha Monk, get up, both of you. We have to exert ourselves tomorrow to find Master. When Idiot learned that he was spared, he was ready to promise Pilgrim half of the sky. Oh, elder brother, he said, let Old Hog take care of everything. With so much on their minds, the 3 brothers, of course, could hardly sleep. How they wished that one nod of their heads would bring forth the rising sun. One blow of their breaths would scatter all the stars. Sitting up till dawn, the 3 of them immediately prepared to leave. Some of the monks in the monastery soon appeared, asking, where are the venerable fathers going? It's hard for me to say this, replied Pilgrim, chuckling. I boasted yesterday that I would catch the monster spirit for you. I haven't succeeded, but I have lost our master instead. We're about to go find him. Growing fearful, the monks said, Venerable Father, such a small matter of ours has now caused your master trouble. Where do you plan to go to look for him? There'll be a place for us to look, replied Pilgrim. In that case, said one of the monks quickly, there's no need to hurry. Please have some breakfast first. Thereupon, they brought in several bowls of rice soup, and 8 rules finished them all. Good monks, he cried. After we have found our master, we'll return for some more fun. So you still want to come back here to eat? Said Pilgrim. Why don't you go to the Devaraja Hall instead and see if that girl is still around? No, she isn't, said another priest hurriedly. She stayed there for one night, but she vanished the next day. In great delight, Pilgrim at once took leave of the monks and asked 8 rules and Sha Monk to tote the luggage and lead the horse to head for the east. You've made a mistake, elder brother, said 8 rules. Why do you want to head for the east instead? How could you know? Asked Pilgrim. That girl who was tied up in the black pine forest the other day, these fiery eyes and diamond pupils of old monkey have long seen through her. All of you thought that she was such a fine person. It was she who devoured the monks, and it was she who abducted Master. You rescued a fine lady Bodhisattva indeed. Now that Master is taken, we have to search for him on the road we came from. Very good, said the 2 of them, sighing with admiration. Truly there's finesse in your roughness. Let's go. The 3 of them hurried back to the forest, and all they saw were endless clouds, boundless fog, layered rocks, winding path, criss-crossing tracks of foxes and hare, tigers, wolves, and leopards crowding there. Of the fiend in the woods there was no trace. Where Tripitaka was they knew not the place. Growing more anxious, Pilgrim whipped out his rod and, with one shake of his body, changed into that appearance that had greatly disturbed the celestial palace. With 3 heads and 6 arms wielding 3 rods, he delivered blows madly all over the forest. When he saw that, 8 rules said, Sha Monk, elder brother, has gone berserk. Unable to locate Master, he's having a fit of anger. Pilgrim's rampage, however, managed to turn up 2 old men. One was the mountain god, and the other the local spirit. Great sage, they said as they went to their knees. The mountain god and the local spirit have come to see you. What a miraculous stick, exclaimed 8 rules. He waved it around and beat out both this mountain god and this local spirit. If he beat it around some more, he might even get himself Jupiter. Mountain god, local spirit. said Pilgrim as he began his interrogation. "How ill-behaved you are. You have persisted in making bandits your allies in this place, and when they succeed, they undoubtedly sacrifice livestock in your honor. Now you even band together with a monster spirit and join her in abducting my master. Where have you hidden him? Confess at once, and I'll spare you a beating." Horrified, the two deities said, "The great sage has wrongly blamed us. That monster spirit is not in this mountain, nor is she subject to our dominion. But these minor deities do happen to know a little about the source of the wind last night. If you know," said Pilgrim, "tell it all." The local spirit said, "That monster spirit has abducted your master to a place about 1,000 miles due south of here. There is a mountain there by the name of Void Entrapping, in which there is a cave called Bottomless. The mistress of the cave is the monster spirit who took your master." Startled by what he heard, Pilgrim dismissed the deities and retrieved his magic appearance. In his true form, he said to Eight Rules and Sha Monk, "Master is very far away." "If he's very far," said Eight Rules, "let's soar on the clouds to get there." "Dear idiot." He mounted a violent gust to rise first, followed by Sha Monk astride the clouds. Since the white horse was originally a dragon prince, he too trod on the wind and fog with the luggage on his back. Then the great sage also mounted his cloud somersault, and they all headed straight for the south. In a little while they saw a huge mountain blocking their path. Pulling back the horse, the three of them stopped their clouds to find that the mountain had a peak rubbing the blue sky, a top joining the green void. Divers trees by the thousands grew all around. Birds and fowl, cacophonous, flew here and there. Tigers, leopards walked in bands. Deer, antelope moved in herds, where it faced the sun. Rare flowers and plants grew fragrant. On the shady parts, the ice and snow stayed stubborn. The rugged summits, steep precipices, a tall peak erect, a deep winding brook, dark pine trees, and scaly rocks. A sight that struck fear in a traveler's heart. No shadow of one woodsman was ever seen, nor a trace of an herb-gathering youth. Wild beasts before you could raise the fog, as foxes all around called up the wind. Eight Rules said, "Oh, elder brother, such a rugged mountain must harbor fiends." "That goes without saying," replied Pilgrim. "For as the proverb puts it, a tall mountain will always have fiends. Could rugged peaks be without spirits?" "Sha Monk, you and I will remain here, and Eight Rules can go down to the mountain fold to see which is the better road to take. He should also find out whether there is in fact a cave, and whether its doors are open, and after he has made a thorough investigation, we can then go find Master and rescue him." "Old hog's so unlucky," said Eight Rules. "You always put me up to something first." Pilgrim said, "You said last night that you would take care of everything. How could you go back on your word now? No need to start a quarrel," said Eight Rules. "I'll go." Putting down his muckrake, Idiot shook loose his clothes and leapt down the mountain empty-handed. As he left, we do not know whether good or ill would befall him. Let's listen to the explanation in the next chapter.